Now to the Southern Highlands in New South Wales, where the opposition leader Peter Dutton is speaking.
This election really is about how we can help Australians manage to get through the disaster of the last 3 years. I want to make sure that Australians understand our vision for our country. It is about helping families right now, immediately after the election, a 25 cent a litre cut in fuel, $1,200 back by way of tax rebate. That's tax you've paid, giving it back to you. We want to manage the economy so that we can bring down inflation rates and therefore bring down interest rates. I want to make sure that I'm the Prime Minister for housing, and I'm absolutely passionate about making sure that we can get young Australians into housing, which is why we're going to cut migration and why we're going to stop foreign buyers from competing against young Australians. We are also going to keep our country safe and our communities safe from crime and safe from any strife in our region. And that's why we want to invest into defence, and it's why we're investing into our crime-crushing policy, the $750 million, which is going to keep people safer in their communities by dealing with the gangs and with the organised motorcycle gangs, etc., who are peddling drugs to our kids. I want to make sure that we can get our country back on track, and that's exactly what we intend to do at the next election. Now, we'll start with the shameless self-promoter here. Jason, you go, and then we'll go around.
Well, it's an honour to be chosen first, Mr Dutton, thank you. The Prime Minister often talks about how he has been underestimated throughout his political career and even in this election campaign. And I wanted to know, do you think you have been underestimated by voters, by commentators around you?
I just think there is a long way to go, and there are a lot of people who have undecided as to how they're going to vote. I want them to hear about our positive plan for our country, a 25 cent a litre cut in fuel tax, $1,200 back, so that we can help you with the immediate needs that you've got. And I want to make sure that we can restore the dream of home ownership and that we can manage the economy well and keep us safe. That's the vision that I have for our country, both in the short term and the longer term. I want to transform the energy system in our country so that we can bring prices down, and I have a very strong belief we live in the best country in the world. We need strong leadership to see us through uncertain times, and that's exactly what I offer the Australian people. Yes.
There are warnings today against both major parties spending big and off budget. Do you acknowledge that your election spend-a-thon would be part of the problem, potentially risking Australia's credit rating if you were to win power? I
think the contrast that you've seen between the way in which Labor's managed the budget and the way in which we manage the budget, it's chalk and cheese. A Liberal coalition government will always manage the budget more effectively. We've put in place supports which don't have a recurrent spend year after year, locking that spend in. We're providing that support here and now to provide immediate relief to Australians. That's why the 25 cent a litre cut in fuel is important. It's why the $1,200 tax rebate back to Australians who are working harder than ever under this government just to pay their bills. That's really important as well. And we will always manage the economy more effectively, and Labor will always spend more. And when you do that, you drive up inflation, which will drive up interest rates, and interest rates will always be cheaper under a coalition government. Yeah. We're just going to do one each today because we're really up against the clock.
Ms. Dutton, could I just ask, it's a double barrel if you don't mind, could I just ask for your reaction to the vandalism of your office in your electorate this morning? And also, you just talk about getting inflation down. Do you know what the current inflation rate is?
I'll come back to that in a second. But firstly, in relation to the office, I want to make sure that we have disagreements, and we can have disagreements, that's fine. But we need to do it better than we have at the moment. And to see Green supporters and others out there shouting at booths, at some of the... We employ security guards now at booths because ETU workers and CFMEU workers intimidate older ladies. And you see the vandalism that is outrageous. So I just want to make sure we want to support our democratic processes, but I don't want to see a situation where we've got people who are being intimidated, and 2.7 is the answer to your question. Yeah. Yes, mate.
You often say that you model your leadership on John Howard. Now, John Howard made a concerted decision to preference...
I was just wondering how you would be able to explain to me how that plan squares with keeping a candidate who blamed someone's mother for their daughter experiencing domestic violence. I know you're going to say that the candidate apologised for those comments, but doesn't it demonstrate the strength of your commitment to the issue if an apology is enough for someone to sit in the party room?
Well, it shows, I think, our resolve and my lifetime resolve in terms of defeating the scourge of violence against women and children. That's been the position I've taken and I've demonstrated that both through words and action from the police officer right to this very day, in terms of the money that we've invested, the actions that we've taken, the visas that we've cancelled of serious offenders who have committed sexual offences against women, for example. I've condemned the comments that you refer to. They've been apologised for, but I'm not going to take a lecture from the Labor Party in relation to...
From the Labor Party, I'm actually asking the question.
No, but I'm not going to take a lecture from the Labor Party in relation to candidate selection, because they've got some people out there who are, I think, very questionable to say the least. Majora, you have one? Yeah.
Members of the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church, formerly known as the Exclusive Brethren, have been flocking to pre-poll booths in religious sects who don't vote to hand out for them.
Well, the Liberal Party hasn't recruited people from particular religions, or we're a volunteer-based organisation. People can volunteer and provide support to their local Liberal National Party candidate. I'd encourage them to do that. Now, the Prime Minister says that he hates Tories and hates Tory supporters, etc. That's an issue for him. We're not discriminating against anybody on the basis of their religion. We have people of, I suspect, every religious type supporting us, and I'll make sure that we have the ability to get our message out, which we do through our volunteers, because there are many Australians, in their millions, who just can't afford 3 more years of this Labor government.
But Mr. Dutton, isn't it weird that doesn't...
On housing, if elected, you've said that you'll ditch shared equity, build to rent and the HAF. Why not leave them and then add your measures on top?
Well, to the point that was asked earlier in relation to the amount of money that's being spent, the ratings agencies are warning that this government is a disaster, and that if we face a global recession, then we are going to be in all sorts of strife in this country under Labor. We have to make sure we can manage our economy well. I want to make sure we can provide immediate relief now, so 25 cent per litre cut in fuel tax, $1,200 back of money that you've paid in taxes. That's the immediate support, and then from there we can fix up the energy system, we can bring the prices down of electricity and gas, and we can help Australians recover from a really bad 3 years under Labor.
Mr. Dutton, you mentioned several times the $1,200 tax offset and temporarily halving the petrol excise. Mm-hmm. Those policies cost $16 billion. If you've already earmarked the savings from repealing Labor's tax cuts to pay for higher defence spending, then what areas are you going to cut to save $16 billion to pay for those two signature policies of yours?
Well, we've provided some of the costings, and we'll provide that, which is sort of going to your question. We'll provide those costings in due course in relation to our policies. But what they'll demonstrate is that the bottom line will always be better under a Liberal government. We'll always manage the economy more effectively. We'll provide the essential services. We're going to bring the cost of petrol down. We're going to give the $1,200 rebate back to Australians to help them with the immediate needs that they've got. You saw this morning, speaking to families, speaking to small business owners, some of them have had their electricity bills double, some up by 40%, and Australians just can't afford 3 more years of Labor.
Anthony Albanese.
Sorry, why have we been skipped over?
Well, we're just going to... Well, we're going to go to this one?
You can go to them first if it's easier.
No, come to you.
Anthony Albanese, in the debate, he asked you a question around whether you'd be comfortable to have a nuclear energy site in your own backyard, to which you said yes. He's now at every opportunity repeatedly saying that. Can you clarify your position if you would have a nuclear energy site in your seat? And also, can I also get your response to the protesters today crashing your press conference that was going to be at a junior sporting club?
Well, in relation to the kids who I think were disappointed to have their event disrupted, it would have been nice to spend more time with them, but they were Greens and Teal supporters dressed up, and it was a stunt. So, unfortunately, the football coaches that we spoke to were really annoyed, actually, and upset at the protests. It made no difference to me, but in terms of the protest activity, but it disrupted an event where we wanted to talk about helping kids play junior rugby. We wanted to talk about an upgrade in the change room facility so that young girls didn't have to go into the canteen to get changed into their footy gear. And the Teals and Greens always pull all sorts of stunts. We've been upfront in relation to the 7 sites that we've identified for the end-of-use coal-fired power stations, where there's already poles and wires going out, so you save that 28,000 kilometres of new poles and wires that Labor has to build, and those 7 sites are identified around the country. There's not one in my electorate. So the Prime Minister can play all sorts of games. We've been up to have a look at and speak to the fishermen and the fishing industry and the tourism industry in the hunt. I mean, has the Prime Minister's been out there talking to those communities about offshore wind? No, he hasn't. So I think, look, as Australians get closer to election day, they realise that there's a choice to be made. On the one hand, we've got 3 more years of cost of everything just going up. On the other hand, we've got a positive plan to make sure we get our country back on track. And if you support your Liberal or National candidate, then that's how we can do that.
Mark Carney is on track to win the Canadian election. What impact do you think Donald Trump might have had on the Conservative Party, and are you worried that will influence the election results?
Look, I haven't seen the results yet. We've sort of had a busy day, and we'll wait to see the results in relation to Canada. But look, the point I'd make here is that this election is between Anthony Albanese and myself. On the one hand, Labor has driven up the cost of everything over the last few years, and they're promising to see costs increase even further. On the other hand, the Coalition has a positive plan to get our country back on track. We're going to reduce the cost of petrol by 25 cents a litre, give $1,200 back by way of a tax rebate. We're going to restore the dream of home ownership, and we're going to keep our country safe. And I think that's what Australians are really interested in at this election.
You've frequently touted that the Coalition actually haven't detailed where the savings are going to come from.
Well, look, we've made commitments in relation to many programs, and they've been properly funded. We've gone through all of the numbers with the PBO in relation to a number of policies, and we'll release that detail. But look, what Australians know, and what generations of Australians know, is that the Liberal Party will always manage the economy more effectively. The homegrown inflation that the Reserve Bank Governor's warned of won't be an issue under us. We will have downward pressure on inflation, and therefore interest rates will always be lower under a coalition government. We're going to provide support to families, immediate support to deal with the cost of living pressures that families are facing, and we will clean up the mess that we will inherit. We'll get our country back on track, and we're going to help young families get into home ownership. I think that's incredibly important. And I might just do one or two more and then we'll have to go. Yes, mate.
Dutton, twice this week you've taken aim at the media, calling some media hate media, you've called some journalists activists. What questions have you taken issue with?
Well, look, I think what Australians are concentrating on, only days out from the election, is not the feelings of, with respect anyone, but other.
Because you're the one that's taken issue.
They're interested in what's better for their family. Now, what's better for their family at this election is to vote for their Liberal or National candidate. Nathaniel behind me has done a great job, and the announcement here today will really change lives for the better. And what we know is that a Liberal National Coalition government will mean a 25 cent a litre reduction for petrol from day one. It'll mean $1,200 back by way of a tax rebate. It'll mean your kids, your grandkids have the dream of home ownership realised under a coalition government.
Excuse at this point of the campaign? Isn't blaming the media just a convenient excuse at this point of the campaign?
And the final point that I'd make is that we'll also feel safer as a country, and I think that's incredibly important because at the moment the Prime Minister has had no interest in relation to stopping the gangs, the crime gangs, stopping the illegal tobacco coming across the borders. I want to make sure that we keep our country safe, and that's exactly what we'll do. Thank you very much.
From you in terms of transparency, will you front up to
That was the opposition leader, Peter Dutton.